Because, of course, there is a balance of power that exists between the Shia on the one side and the Sunni on the other. I mean, you've got Saudi Arabia, you've got Egypt, you've got Iran, that's true, but they establish a balance of power there. You know, their interests are antagonistic, but they all are worried about what the other one gets. I wouldn't mind just saying, you know, I wish we could say, here's the way it would play out, but I would give it a chance to have that balance of power play out in the Middle East even without our presence.
And you know what, I'm going to go ahead and agree with the Congressman. I think there's real possibilities in the Federation idea. The real problem is going to be finding a way to give oil revenues, or give some way that the middle, the Sunni part in the middle can essentially make a living.
Especially when you don't even have a tax structure in the country today. The only thing you have in Iraq today is an oil revenue, and that's how it separates down to every local community. When I was there, I asked, we were in Tikrit, and I was asking the mayor and the city council about what they needed. They said, a university. And I said, a university? There isn't a working sewage system here. What do you mean? And how would you build it? Well, you know, we would build it for them, they assumed. And that they would get a check from the federal government because it would be an oil revenue, because there is no basic tax system. So we got big problems.
I think we just agreed on something, which means Jack probably wants to.
Well, what a nice and lovely picture painted of an Iraq in which the regime we have set up is living in Fantasyland, which is essentially what the generals were saying the other day. These people are living in Fantasyland. You know, they're not dealing with the real problems. They're busy appointing themselves to various high-sounding offices. This is typical of puppet governments that are set up during a military occupation. It was true of Vichy France, and it was true of what we did in Vietnam.
All right, we've only got 10 minutes left. We're going to try to ask some quick questions on our part, which may be a challenge, and get some quick answers. I'm going to start off, and then I'll try not to cut you off too frequently. But Tom, when you look back on your career in Congress, is there one vote that you would take back? And I'm going to ask Bill and Jack, is there one vote Tom should take back, or should have taken back? I'm going to start with you.
Gosh, there are several thousands that you have every year, and well, I'll put it this way: if I ever cast a vote to increase taxes in some way that I'm not yet aware of, I'm sorry I did so.
All right, Bill, if you could convert one of the congressman's votes, what vote would that be?
Well, I'm not sure I can narrow it down to one. I think I would have had him vote different, vote for the Violence Against Women Act, and vote for aid to Katrina victims, and vote for the Voting Rights Act.
Instead of voting against all those?
All three.
All right, Jack.
I'm not sorry about any of those, by the way.
Gosh, you're such a mean person.
Yeah, right.
I think probably every vote the congressman has ever made on the issue of immigration has been wrong. I think the American economy needs the Mexicans like it needs the breath of life. I think as we begin to lose our technological edge over our big adversaries like China, India, and Brazil, which we're not paying attention to right now, that we are going to need to become a bigger country, have a larger military, and be more inclusive of the rest of the continent. I believe in North American Union, not in walling America off behind a paper curtain.
All right, Terry.
Here's a short question. Who's your political hero and why, and who's the worst public office holder on the planet?
Oh, let's start. Who's the worst public? That's a different one. Who's the worst public office holder on the planet? Does that include dictators?
Let's just stick to America.
Yeah, thanks.
Just America.
The worst political leader in America right now. What a wealth of choices.
Pick one.
Dick Cheney.
Okay. And
your hero?
Harry S. Truman. He was well prepared for the office. He was well versed in history. He was well intentioned. He told the truth even when it wasn't to his advantage, and he was kind and merciful to people.
I don't know if he felt he was well prepared, but that's
kind and merciful.
Bill.
You know, I would have to say Dick Cheney, probably for the current.
That's your hero?
No, I thought we were starting with.
No, I'm teasing you. I'm just kidding.
And then if I could pick a cabinet member, it'd be Don Rumsfeld. As a veteran of the military, I just don't really feel very good about what he's done to the military. But in terms of, I always prefer to be positive. In terms of historical figure, Abraham Lincoln is my hero. In terms of somebody alive today, it would either be John McCain or Chuck Hagel, to be perfectly honest with you, two Republicans.
All right. Arizona and Nebraska.
Ronald Reagan is a hero and has been since I served in his cabinet. Not his cabinet. I'm sorry, his administration. That was just wishful thinking, I suppose, on my part. I believe he had heart, and you could see it, and there was passion there, and I responded to it. I certainly believe right now that perhaps the scariest person in political office is Hillary Clinton.
All right, we'll talk about that another time. Charlie, do you have a quickie for these guys?
Well, since Aaron didn't mind putting Tom on the spot, I won't mind either.
Well, then why not? You say if Aaron didn't mind putting me on the spot, why don't you put somebody else?
And I will. I will.
I did too. I said, how nice it's going to be.
Tom's used to having me put him on the spot.
That's it.
So.
You made a term limit commitment.
I did.
And it is no longer there. For you, do you wish you had not made that commitment?
I did. I do. And you know, probably if I had thought about it at the time, although it wasn't a vote, that was something that I was incorrect in doing. That's absolutely true. It developed out of a certain degree of naivete about the process itself. It also developed as a result of the fact that the immigration issue did become a huge issue, and I did become, for whatever reason, highly visible in the discussion of it. I am happy that I told my constituents the very first, in my very first term, that I had made a different decision. I didn't wait until I had, 2 terms under my belt and then said, "Oh, by the way, tomorrow I'm going to run again." But I wish that I had not made that.
All right, let's let Bill and Jack talk about Tom's.
May I finish that up with Bill and Jack?
Okay.
You two, how do you feel about voluntary term limits, and would you be willing to make a statement here and now on whether you would observe one or not?
I'm not going to make a voluntary term limit pledge myself, because I don't want to find myself in the same situation of having to go back on what I promised people. What I will say is that I will stay there as long as, first of all, as long as the people keep electing me, but more importantly, as long as I feel like I'm making a difference, because that's what my campaign is all about, is making a difference and making people's lives better. So I will stay there as long as that I believe that I'm making a difference and I'm effective there, because there are a lot of ways I can make a difference that don't include me being in Congress.
All right, what about the congressman's breach of his pledge?
Well, I think that there's an issue there insofar as back in 1998 in a 5-way primary, I think it had a real effect on the fact that he won that primary, and I imagine that there are people that are still upset about that. That, frankly, is yes, and that's frankly between him and them, and I guess that's a question that he has to answer in terms of his credibility.
All right, so Jack,
and we did return every single dime to anybody. We sent out a letter and said, if anybody gave me money because of this, we are willing to return it, and we did. There wasn't very many that asked, but we sent it all back.
Jack.
Longest I've ever held a job in my life was 5 years, so you don't have to worry about it with me. I get interested. I get interested in other things, and I move on. As far as the congressman's breaking of his pledge, I think he probably was foolish to make it. I think it was probably not his finest moment to break it, but he has been re-elected by his constituents, and Vox Populi Vox Dei. The voice of the people is the voice of God. They have acquitted him.